Lallemand Animal Nutrition has been helping Australian livestock producers like you to grow quality silage for more than 20 years. Over this time, we've come to understand what it takes to succeed. We call it the Modern Silage Roadmap. The Modern Silage Roadmap starts with planning up to 12 months before you expect to harvest.
Really, it just starts with a discussion. What do you want to achieve in your farming operation? How do we incorporate silage into that? How do we get the most from that silage and that feeding program in your livestock operation?
The first step is to calculate how much silage you will need based on the nutrient requirements of your livestock and the anticipated duration of your feeding program.
So having a plan of what's the nutritional requirements of my livestock enterprise, what can I grow, how do I fill that nutritional requirement in terms of quality and quantity, how am I going to store it, how am I going to feed it.
Next, select a crop that can deliver the required nutritional quality and determine the required crop size and whether the crop will be grown on or off farm. Then determine the best storage method for your operation based on your anticipated usage of silage in your nutrition program and how long you intend to store it. It's also a good idea to identify how you intend to feed out the silage and what additional machinery or infrastructure, such as commodity bunkers or a feed pad, will be required. Then it's time to identify a forage harvesting contractor, your partner in quality silage. Make sure you stay in contact with your team throughout the growing season. The second part of the Modern Silage Roadmap is selecting a forage inoculant that will optimise fermentation and aerobic stability. Choose a strain-specific inoculant that'll deliver the best results for the ensiling conditions. For example, high-protein crops face greater fermentation challenges, while high-starch crops face greater aerobic stability issues.
What's very important about conserving as much of the original crop that we're harvesting in terms of quantity and quality, as we don't want to have undesirable compounds produced in that fermentation in the silage that we're going to feed to our animals. So it's pretty important to meet the ensiling challenges and to store a great feed for use later on.
Do not assume that all inoculants work or do the same thing. Make sure you choose an inoculant whose performance is supported by independent scientific research. Ideally, it should also contain specific enzymes to assist bacteria to produce an optimal fermentation and improve digestibility. And finally, it's important you choose an inoculant that's been produced using international quality standards to ensure its potency, stability and viability are maintained from the factory to the farm. The third part of the Modern Silage Roadmap is making sure you maintain anaerobic conditions throughout storage. Oxygen is the enemy of silage, so it's important to take every step possible to prevent oxygen from entering the stack during storage and feed out.
Sealing is, like all the other components, one of the most criticals because it's about keeping oxygen out of our silage. If we have oxygen, we have compost.
Always use quality film, and ideally oxygen barrier film, which is 100 times more effective than standard polyethylene film in preventing oxygen transfer.
So in sealing technology in the last decade has really changed a lot with the advent of oxygen barrier films. So food grade polymers that are used in agricultural films to seal silage to stop air entry. So traditional plastics still have some air entry pass through them and go into the silage and spoil feed. So an oxygen barrier will stop that.
The film should be covered with a woven UV stable cover to protect it from sunlight or potential damage caused by livestock or wildlife. Finally, make sure the edges of the film are firmly sealed. Gravel bags provide a more flexible seal and environmentally friendly option than tyres or tyre walls. The fourth part of the Modern Silage Roadmap is to use tools to objectively measure your success in achieving production targets. Remember, if you don't measure it, you can't improve it.
So measuring the dry matter or the moisture of the crop before harvest, during harvest, looking at the density measurements to see if we're getting the level of compaction that we want, how we're processing that crop in terms of the chopping and the packing of that silage.
After opening the stack, conduct a nutritional analysis of a representative sample of silage before feeding out. A Penn State forage particle separator is an extremely useful tool to assess forage length and processing to assist with ration formulation and feeding. The final stage of the modern silage roadmap is to objectively review what went right or wrong with this year's program. Lallemand Animal Nutrition is committed to helping you achieve your silage goals.
Yeah, reviewing it's part of the 12-month plan, roadmap. You know, it's what are the things that we could improve, what are the things that we, didn't quite get the last season, and be ready for it next season.
Each year we'll review your silage program, including production targets, nutritional quality, process efficiencies, shrinkage, livestock production outcomes, and provide recommendations for improvement. Contact Lallemand Animal Nutrition today and find out how we can help put you on the path to silage success.